Andrew Urquhart with you on the program today. And hey, this is very confusing. Regularly chat with Dr Bryce Edwards on a Friday. Doesn't feel like a Friday, but he does join us on the program. Bryce, any excuse, nice to chat with you again. Welcome to the program.
Maureen, Andrew, yes, lovely to be on. Thanks.
Now, what is the big talking topic at the moment? Honestly, let's call it what it is. Will Christopher Luxon still be our Prime Minister by Christmas? It's seeming more and more unlikely. What's the vibe in Wellington? What are people saying?
Oh, the speculation just continues to mount. This is both in the media, but also, yes, in the corridors of power and so forth. This, of course, has been going on ever since this new government came into office. Christopher Luxon's never really convinced the public, and a lot of commentators are unconvinced by him, myself included.
Yeah.
I think he's a fair enough politician, but he doesn't seem to be able to resonate with the public. I'm not sure he's got what it, well, I know I don't think he's got what it takes to be a successful prime minister.
Yep.
But I'll fast forward to the conclusion, which is I think he's probably likely to stay.
Okay.
And so we can discuss his pros and cons and why that might be. But and I'm not really forecasting that because anything could happen.
Yep.
But my feeling is that the government are sort of stuck with Luxon, that the options of change aren't convincing enough
Yep.
for them to take that risk. I think the reason, just briefly, why we're having such a lot of speculation at the moment is that we are drawing close to Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always been this idea that you have to let a leader, and particularly a prime minister, have a fair chance before you talk about actually getting rid of them. And there's a sense that it's 2 years now, and we're about to go into election year. I think Jacinda Ardern showed us that you can become a party leader soon before an election and do incredibly well.
Yep.
But still, the logic is generally that you're better to get any leadership changes, done and bedded in before election year and therefore before Christmas. So we've kind of got a month left of
Yep.
window of opportunity, and that's why the speculation is there.
One of the harshest comments I've heard on this one recently was if Christopher Luxon was arrested for having a personality, there wouldn't be enough evidence to convict him. Now, we're not talking about personality politics. However, you should have a personality, you should have charisma, you should be likeable and relatable and all those sorts of things that perhaps Christopher Luxon isn't.
I think that's the case. His critics, I think, and this includes most of the public, don't quite feel that he's authentic.
Yep.
They feel that, he's trying to say the right things. He's trying hard to be a likable person, but it doesn't come across as
No.
sincere. And maybe that's unfair. But, I'm trying to think of the infamous phrase, if you can fake sincerity,
You
you've
got
got
it
it
made.
made.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I'm not sure that he's any less real than other leaders and prime ministers, but he certainly doesn't come across like that. No.
In terms of what may happen, now you've already, I suppose, put the prediction out there, and certainly Christopher Luxon hasn't got the memo. Today he's making announcements about how the government's going to encourage us all to save more, and he's trying to look statesman-like. However, the polls do tell a different story. And particularly within the corridors of power, people will be saying, is this guy the albatross that means that we won't win the next election? Recent polls have said that Labour, people have more confidence in Labour from an economic point of view. And that's certainly bad news for National and all the attempts that they've made to win confidence in that regard. I suppose if Christopher Luxon means that National won't be in power next election, something's got to change, and a few people likely coming to that conclusion.
Oh, look, I think so. The polls have been quite bad in the last few months in terms of the proportion of people saying they would vote National, generally in the low 30s. It dropped down below 30 for a while. It's bounced back up a little bit. But likewise, the people that are saying that Luxon is their preferred prime minister, still pretty low.
Yep.
People the proportions of people that say they have a favourable assessment of Luxon are below water, as in there's more people that have an unfavourable view of him than there are people that have a favourable one. So that's kind of pretty deathly normally for a leader.
Yep.
But yes, I think as you were suggesting, there was an even more damaging survey that came out last week, the Ipsos survey, which firstly, it asks people what their evaluation is of the performance of the government,
Hmm.
and only 3.9%. Sorry, I think no, the average response from the survey respondents was 3.9 out of 10. And
Wow.
so that's the lowest evaluation of a government for since this poll was occurring.
Yep.
It was pretty low for the last Labour government, especially in the second term. I have to say it was getting round about 4.5 out of 10, so not so flash, but it's gone even lower.
Wow.
And so yes, you're right. There's a few more people that are being now suggested as potential leaders to replace him.
Just talking about the process in that regard, because even if it was something which got over the line before Christmas, a messy leadership challenge just before Christmas doesn't look stable, doesn't look statesmanlike. However, if Christopher Luxon was to get the memo and say, you know what, this is not how, I don't think I'm the person to lead anymore. And there was some type of transition of power, which was done amicably, and he was perhaps given a position in cabinet under the next new leader. Who are the contenders there? Who could be Prime Minister if Christopher Luxon, by his own volition, decides to step aside?
Yeah, look, I think you're right, Andrew, that normally when there's a change in leader, there is a sort of managed exit of that
Yep.
leader. They normally get the memo and they sort of see the signs before they have a kind of, they jump rather than being
We
fired.
certainly saw that with Jacinda Ardern, her popularity also spiralling downwards, and it was during that summer break that she made that announcement. Could
Yeah,
we see something similar?
look, you're right. I think Ardern and John Key, when he left, they made I mean, they both went at a time that their fortunes were dropping.
Hmm.
I don't think they came under any pressure from their colleagues. I don't think they were forced out in any way at
Yep.
all. And so that would be quite a big difference in this situation. I think Luxon is getting the pressure from some colleagues,
Hmm.
but the reporting is that most senior national MPs don't want him to go.
Yep.
Not because they're big fans of his, but because, like you say, the instability, excuse me, I'll just have a drink. The instability isn't a good look.
One of of course, the obvious questions that comes from that, if not Luxon, then who? And
Oh,
when
yeah.
when we look at the possible contenders here, who's in the probables list?
Well, there's no doubt about it. Chris Bishop is at the top of the list of
Yep.
various pundits, and I think the public, when they've been surveyed on this, he's seen as a very strong performer. He's got a lot done during these last 2 years. He holds lots of portfolios. He's pushed through fast track changes, housing changes. He's doing RMA reform. He's kind of a very pragmatic politician who calls a spade a spade,
Yep.
is kind of has a bit more personality, I think, than
Yeah.
most politicians. Is a bit rough and gruff, and almost a bit of a Robert Muldoon way, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe even looks a bit like him, I don't know. But I think he's someone that would be a very strong leader. There's questions about his integrity, about whether things like the Fast Track
Yeah.
Act. He's also the campaign manager for National. Whether he kind of cuts corners and sort of does things to get things done quicker than the process should allow. So I think he's at the top, but you can't really dismiss the possibility of someone like Nicola Willis.
Hmm.
She's the deputy, she's the finance minister, and I don't think she's shined as the finance minister
Yeah.
lately, but she's definitely a very able politician with definitely a lot of career ahead of her. Erica Stanford,
Hmm.
she's really been the star performer of this government, and that's been reflected in a number of evaluations that have put her as the leading minister in this government. But the one I'm hearing a bit more about is Louise Upston.
Okay.
Bit of a dark horse there.
Hmm.
I don't know if she has previously been seen as a potential prime minister, but some people were saying she could be the compromise
Okay.
candidate.
Yeah.
She's the one that's not so flashy, but she is likable enough, and that she could be just a good person, good, solid politician that might actually satisfy some of the different factions in the National Party.
Mm.
So there's no doubt about it that there's always factions in the National Party. And if you get someone like Nicola Willis or even Chris Bishop in charge, they're from the more kind of socially liberal wing of the National Party. And there's always some that want to make sure that there's a balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if there's a conservative leader like we have as Luxon, you
Hmm.
then have to have a more liberal deputy like Nicola Willis.
Yeah.
And so there's some doubts about how you get that balance. Louise Upston might be that compromise.
Hey, interesting to see, and yeah, we'll wait and see whether or not your prediction as Christopher Luxon, our Prime Minister, as we head up to Christmas, is true. We won't, there's no money on the table, Bryce. We're all
No.
good. But appreciate your wisdom and insight as always. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Andrew.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.